The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to the Brandon Peters Show. It's been 11 years have gone by in Scream time. And we're about to return to Woodsboro again for Scream, parentheses 2022. And back again for more. We have Greg McGoon.
Hello.
And Jessica Alsman.
Hey.
And no Deputy Judy becomes sheriff. No, we don't have that with that. But we're here for Scream, the latest installment for a hot week. Well, this is our days when this comes out, this episode from 2022. Delayed because it was supposed to be 2020. Was it? Or 2021? Got delayed.
Yeah.
COVID. I know that. This was one of the first, like, fuck it, we're coming out. Because there was like the Omicron variant was during this time. There was talk of should they move? Should they? Said nope. We're gonna do it. And paid off. Made a lot of money off this movie. But let's get into it.
Sid, it's happening. 3 attacks so far.
Well,
whatever his link is to our past, it ends here. I've seen this movie before.
not this movie, Sydney.
Scream. Rated R.
This one is directed by Matt Bettinelli Olpen and Tyler Gillette. Is it Gillette? Gillette? Written by James Vanderbilt and Guy Busick. Starring Melissa Barrera, Jenna Ortega, Jack Quaid, Maggie Madison, Dylan Minnette, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Mason Gooding, Sonia Marr, Marley Shelton, Heather Matarazzo, Skeet Ulrich with David Arquette, Courtney Cox, and Nev Campbell. 25 years after a streak of brutal murders shocked the quiet town of Woodsboro, California, a new killer dons the Ghostface mask and begins targeting a group of teenagers to resurrect secrets from the town's deadly past. And I will tell you one of the weirdest things as a Scream fan, horror fan, this one does not have the Dimension Films logo to open it. For the better, for the best, but always that Dimension Films always said to me, ooh, we're about to see a spooky movie, probably a Scream one, or a Halloween movie, or Children of the Corn, or Hellraiser, any of those. But it was like a signifier of horror, which kids today probably have like the Twisted Productions or the Blumhouse logos that are really cool. But that Dimension Films, nothing, it wasn't like overdone. It was just the perfect amount of simplicity of that purple and then just, but not here. And it's okay because I like the way the phone rings and just house.
Yeah.
Really cool. So, in a year ago, Jessica, where were you at with your thoughts on another Scream coming out?
I was excited. I saw the entire cast, who all is going to be in it. I love Jack Quaid. And was this the poster that said the killer's on the poster?
Yes.
Like everyone's on it. I'm like, I love it. I'm going to figure this out. I'm in. And I was at the theater and I loved it. I couldn't wait. But then the only thing I could stare at or pay attention to was all the lip injections that every woman on screen had, that I went home questioning if I should try lip injections or if I just couldn't stop staring at it, because it's like every single girl. I'm like, you guys are all in high school. Come on. Whatever. But I digress. I freaking loved it. I loved it. And I fell in love with Jenna Ortega. I'm like, holy crap. I love this little spunky thing. I didn't even know how old she was because she was so tiny.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if this is like a 13 or 14-year-old girl, like holy crap, or whatever she's supposed to be.
The
17.
only one proper age in the cast.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, she did so great. But I absolutely loved it. And I loved everything. I was okay with Dewey dying.
Yeah.
Someone had to die, you know? And then it leads to a nice little, maybe Gale changes because of it. It just made me sad that they weren't still together, but I don't know.
There's I kind of, we'll get into it later, but I get the meta reason why it's like that. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
but
I just really enjoyed the story.
I want to say properly. The funny thing is, so the big camp, it was like the killers on the poster. Properly, the killer had never been on the poster before. They had the Scream poster we talk about with the that was later. That was this like a re-release poster for it. The original was just the thing like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Scream 2 did not have Oliphant or Metcalf on the poster. Scream 3 did not have Foley on the poster. Scream 4's poster was did not have characters on it. The
Yeah.
theatrical, and then when it came on home video, they made one that looked like Scream 3 and with the people and stuff, and that had Emma Roberts on it. But properly in like initial marketing push, the killer had never been on the poster before. And then they threw every character on there and said, killer's on the poster, and a ghost face too, just to be a jackass. Like
I bet it's Ghostface. Come on.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, Greg.
Oh man, I don't even want to relive where I was last year at this time.
Yeah,
In a
okay,
very
yeah. I
dark
remember. Yeah.
place. Very, very dark place. But I did see this
Your
the
Scream
day-
self. Your Scream self.
Yeah, I did see it the day it came out. This was literally one of the only functional things that like pushed me to get out of bed, my anticipation for this movie to be a coherent human. So thank you, Scream 2022, for giving me some willpower to live through last year. And that sounds really dramatic, but that is actually an understatement of where I was last year at this time. I even dragged a friend because of like how dark of a place I was in. I didn't really talk to many people locally because my closest people didn't live around me. But that I reconnected with a friend who I went to high school with, who
Oh.
isn't familiar with the Scream franchise, who doesn't even like horror movies. But given my state of the world, she agreed to go with me. So I would not go by myself because she knew I wasn't going to miss it. Nor did she think I could actually function going by myself. So I dragged her to it. And you know what? For somebody who doesn't know the Scream movies, walked out of that going, it was all right. So I'm impressed without any context. She liked it. And I kind of devoured it more than probably a normal human would have at the time, because I needed something to preoccupy my mind. So I like overanalyzed and thought about it, but in general, I was gonna love it no matter what. So it kind of went in there as just being like, it's something I love, it's Scream, I accept it no matter what it is. If whoever dies, I don't care, I'm in it. So I kind of went in with a bias of I'm just gonna love it. But we'll talk about kind of my thoughts now, having seen it at least 6 or 7 times now.
Gotcha.
Since then.
Yeah, and you know where I was with this, Greg, because we talked about it a lot leading up to it. Because I was, no Wes Craven,
Yeah.
Kevin Williamson. Granted, his name's on as a producer, but come on, and I was worried. And there's all these member berries nostalgia movies nowadays.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, and I didn't like, and it's still in the movie. The line I hate is like, "Oh, Sidney Prescott, of course I have a fucking gun." Like, okay. And I was worried about delving into fan fiction and all that stuff, and I was like, I was really just like, oh man. And then I saw it, and I liked it a lot. I saw it opening night, and then I went again a week later, because I took my son to it because he'd been watching them all, and I went and saw the new one just to make sure. Because, it'd been 11 years. They let a lot more shit fly in movies every decade you go to. So I went and saw. I was like, okay, he can see this. I took him to it, and we had because of the way COVID is, theaters at the time, it was still very early into the first year of people going. It hadn't even been a year since many people had been going back to the theater, and we had a private screening of Scream.
Oh
So that
wow.
next one, it was just him and me, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be the viewing where I had things I wanted to look for in it. And I was like, this is gonna be where the crack shows. So, and I did even more the second time around. So, and now I'm psyched about Scream. So unlike when Terminator 3 came out, and this is the second time I've compared them to Terminators. I apologize because they're not. Terminator 3 came out, I was like, oh my God, why are they just leave it? If James Cameron doesn't want to do it, there's no story to tell. Don't do it. And I saw Terminator 3, which is not as good as Terminator or Terminator 2, but I was like, okay, that was fine. That was good. You did it. Cash your check, run. Don't make any more. Just fucking stop. You didn't fuck up. Granted, I have this different opinion. I know there's a lot of people who hate Terminator 3. Where it's like, you fucked it. Just stop. Don't make more. This was Scream 2022. I'm like, give me 4 more. Let's do this. I was very happy with it because I think, and where the problem was last time, where I said the last one was afraid to hand over the movie to the younger kids. This one did it, and this one gave us a lot of good new characters, a lot of I like these kids, and doesn't oversaturate the legacy characters into it. It does have some member berry stuff. It's very light though, and some of it's corny enough to be like, oh, okay. A lot of it's brilliant and not distracting. And I just like how this movie flows. It's very clever with. It feels like Scream, which is really weird. It feels like the perfect. It's reflecting on horror, embracing the horror, turning the tropes around of what they're talking about. The last one had to be prophetic, which is weird, so we didn't understand stuff at the time where we are going, but this one's yeah, where are we at in horror? People like horror right now. They're using the elevated horror term, which is bullshit anyway. They have different sects of they have fandoms oh, I like these stab, but I like these elevated horror stuff. It's in the moment of horror rather than scoffing at the moment of horror with things too. Yeah, and I like these new characters just as much. I'm invested in them, and sad to see some of them go, even down to Kyle Gallner as the grubby looking townsfolk. Vince cracks me up. He's like, see you later, sweetheart. And he's and then Peter's like, fuck this bar, man. And I'm just like, I don't know why this character's dumb as fuck, but I'm cracking up at it. It's so out of place. I don't know. Props to Kyle Gallner. He knows we have a similar friend, and he told him that I loved this movie, and he sent me a message about it. But yeah, I don't know what it was, but oh, I like that. But I'm on board. I'm whereas the other ones were okay, more Scream, but this one was oh, this was it. This was it felt so long since I was just fully on board, and not after I watch this a few more times, I'll warm up. It'll be one of the family. It wasn't like that. I was right away clicked with me. So I don't know.
I mean, if Scream 4 was filmed more like Scream 5, Scream 4 would have been better.
Yeah.
I will say that. I like the grittier feel to this. With that being said, it is really funny that they the promo or tag or whatever it was about Scream 2025 or 2025, 2022, Scream
Yeah.
5. That they say 25 years after the massacre. Well, technically it's been 11 years because you're all forgetting that a massacre
Right,
just
yeah.
happened.
And they mention it. Well, they do talk about it. They're
They do, but
every 11 years.
Yeah, but they do, but at the same time though, it's it was pretty horrific back then.
Yeah.
With that being said, Woodsboro felt completely different in this new movie.
Oh yeah.
What is this weird bar pool hall thing that they have?
Well, it opened up. We saw new places. We saw new areas.
But it just seemed I don't know. I just after the world that they built of like okay, here's what it is. Woodsboro in Scream 4 felt like it was out of Stars Hollow, like Gilmore Girls. Like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Gilmore
yeah, yeah.
Girls
Yep.
like Woodsboro. And now we went back to and then like the original one kind of felt like small town anywhere
Dawson's Creek.
USA. Dawson's Creek a little bit. This one just felt a little more like backwoods. Like not
It's
like
towny. Yeah. We're a
yeah, it
different
is a
side of
bit
town.
towny.
Like the good folks
Like
left. They're like, I'm over it. People keep getting killed. I don't want to get caught up in that.
yeah,
Friends with the wrong
which
person.
I believe if like high school kids are throwing barn parties for staff-a-thons every year, I feel like the town would eventually kind of disintegrate and become a little bit like questionable and seedy.
Well, they are twisted. Remember Randy's sister, like, oh, you kids solving murders? Have some cookies.
So
Hi,
funny.
everybody.
Yeah,
You kids have
so-
fun. You guys
Like-
have fun.
I appreciate that. I feel like the evolution of this town, like there's either you're gonna go into the extreme overhaul, but I feel like after the glossy Stars Hollow treatment of Woodsboro 11 years later, they're like, we're not going through that again. I'm sorry, there's no gloss that can save this town. It's a free for all, everybody there. We're living in purge times. Like you live in Woodsboro, you're on your own. Good luck. Have way on it. But it's kind of nice to see the loyalty of the people, and it makes sense that the sheriff department would be questionable and like that Judy would move up in the ranks and stuff like that. Like it makes sense because those people would be invested in their town and they would be a little like there's nowhere else for them to go. Like
Right.
you wonder why they're kind of doofy there or things aren't quite right is because there's nowhere else for them to go.
Right.
So I appreciate a lot of what they did with this movie, but I do have a few like major qualms about it but again, doesn't change my love of it, but it's just I don't know if we want to go in order of it or if we want to just jump into deaths or if we want to just start with the opening and go through. Up to
Well,
you on how you want to talk.
Opening. Well, let's hit the opening because Jenna Ortega is so hot. Right. This is the launch of her amazing 2022. Right
Yep.
here, answering the phone, and this is a great callback. Like this is a great throwback to Scream. So, whereas I was like, what is Scream 3? What horror movie is it riffing? What is Scream 4 is doing something there too. Scream is doing Scream. And
Yeah.
before we get this, remember the bitching about the title? And they all had us for a fucking loop, and it's brilliantly titled. This, because they always, those legacy sequels just call it the same fucking thing as the other one. And this is and they're going right back to 6 after this. So it's, I mean, when you see the movie, you're like, oh, I should never have bitched about that dumb title because it's one of the most brilliant things about the movie is calling it Scream.
I mean, it's better than putting a 5 where the
it was going to be 5 cream. 5 cream.
Yeah, 5 cream.
But
5
no,
cream.
but no, I think the title, because everybody's like, oh, they're just calling it fucking Scream. Like, because like Halloween has called itself Halloween, and Halloween and Halloween. So that's what is ripping on here. And so we get Ortega doing the callback to Scream with this opening sequence. And I found like there is a nice little clue in the dialogue here about who's on the phone. I think it's Jack Quaid calling her while Amber attacks her. But when he says, talking about her mom and saying, she's proud of making a fan out of you. Like, that's not some fucking parable. I'm like, Perry, like, oh, I'm so proud I made him like these things. Like, that's such a fanboy aspiration stuff. And it's a nice genuine clue right there in that, of that bullshit. That's like, yeah, it's a toxic fandom, people say. But yeah, she survives. That's like one of the cool little twists on this is that she survives the attack, which I've told Greg my idea of like a cool thing is where what if they had a Scream where they kill the killer in the opening and they got to figure out the rest of the movie who else is doing it. Like they reveal somebody and they got to figure out, okay, well, they're never alone and there's still somebody out there doing it. But
and as I was telling Brandon earlier too, I was going, okay, if Jenna Ortega, if Tara can survive the opening of Scream 5,
Right.
there is no reason that anyone could ever question Kirby not dying and being able to come back. Because Kirby was stabbed just twice, and poor Jenna, that girl was stabbed in the back, stabbed in the front, stabbed through the hand. And you know that the cops weren't going to show up immediately after she was attacked. So Jenna Ortega had to lie there for a hot minute when Kirby, on the other hand, was stabbed twice. All that shit went down, but the cops were there really quickly afterwards because cops were already on their way to the house in Scream 4. Scream 5, Tara's on her own. Like, she is just bloody and wrecked and ruined. And if she survives, then Kirby lives. So I don't want to hear anybody complaining about Kirby being alive in 6. Now that I like, the more I watch 5, I'm like, nope, Kirby got off easy compared to Tara, and Tara lived moments later.
Well, and the stock value of the big name in the opening sequence in January of 2022 by November of 22 rises even. Like, it's crazy. But yeah, and then after the title comes up and it cuts to I'm sorry, Miss Jack. Oh nope, it's some new tune that sounds just like the Outcast song. It's got the same beat. I was thrown off by that, but
and one more thing about the opening too, that going back to the point that I said about 4, about how like sometimes they just don't do things quickly. And what I really liked about the Tara attack was she's on the phone, and then there's that like, do you think you were able to lock the doors before, or like something about the killer coming in, and then just all of a sudden just stabs her in the gut. And it's that quick, like I still kind of jump every time that happens. And I feel like no scene actual like attack that quick, more anticipation, or there's like a jump scare where you just see him. But this is not just a jump scare. See, this is a jump scare, an actual like blade inside moment that you don't typically get with then it like carries on, and it's torture to watch. So I really like that this one didn't waste any time and didn't have to do that cat mouse teasing thing. It just went for it. And I liked that. Like it's a very dark movie. This opening was very dark.
Well,
what did she end up calling the cops, or did she text the cops, or was she texting Amber? Like, I don't remember how the cops even came or how someone found her.
I think she sent a message to the cops or something. She contacted some emergency thing.
Okay.
While she's scrolling through, in which we also during her trivia bit, we got some more Stab cast members through her not IMDb. We have Alicia Silverstone played Tatum in it. Vince Vaughn played Stu. Craig Bierko played Cotton Weary. God. We also get a new scene from Stab that we get to watch in the movie too. The Randy Rules scene, which I wish I looked up the actor. I'm like, please tell me he was in Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Please tell me he was not Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Because he wrote I got a guy who wrote a stagecoach from one episode of Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Did not happen.
Oh.
Yeah. So but yeah, we get introduced to
my potential podcast doing Dr. Quinn.
Yes. We get Sam Carpenter, our new final girl for this, who Melissa Barea, who I saw the year before in The Heights, where she is absolutely wonderful. And she's the love child of Billy from the first one. And has these visions of him, which brings Skeet Ulrich back, which I think is a brilliant switch. Because everybody for years have been like, Stu, bring back Matthew Lillard, but never talks about Skeet Ulrich, like dead as fuck, like leave him. They bring back Skeet Ulrich, which is a big surprise, de-aged decently, decent effects there. And I like this because it's like, it ties back, like, the 4 out of the 5 movies have had something to do with Billy Loomis. We have the original where he's the killer, the second where it's the mom, the third one where it's the guy that instigated him to do the killings, and then now you have his daughter. So it's all like, as much as Sydney, there's Billy Loomis draped over the Scream series as well.
And she always sees him in like what, her visions, or she constantly thinks she sees him or talks to him, or he's talking to her, and like Sydney used to see stuff, so it's kind of nice little.
So because of the weird dream sequence in 3, this is okay. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like,
It's
I'm
weird
like,
that
all
she
right.
knows his voice though. It's like, oh, have you heard his... You knew exactly what he was wearing, but I'm sure it's because of the movie.
It's a movie, and there's the, where they're watching the Hollywood story thing, and they've got a still frame of the movie as his like shot. Like, yeah. So her and so we meet Sam Carpenter, which John Carpenter, I get it. And we have a Wes to say to Wes Craven. And her boyfriend Richie, which is Jack Quaid, who brilliant in this movie because he's so damn likable and pulls off some really tough stuff well, like in the end sequence of like bankability with things. And he's funny, like kind of dorkily charming, but then there's like some twisted stuff I'm starting to notice or think about watching this. Like, you remember the scene where she calls him and he's watching like YouTube guys talk about Stab?
Mm-hmm.
And when you watch the movie originally and stuff, you're like, oh, he's doing his research. He's watching that regularly. That's what he watches.
Right.
That's what he does. He's a fan. That's normal him just watching some YouTubers yak about Stab. I was like, holy shit. Like, you think you're watching like, oh, he's doing all that research. No, that's what he does. He watches those things. He's like, oh, down to the rabbit hole you talk about. That's what he's doing in that moment. He's not researching. He's just killing his free time doing that. And I was like, holy shit, I never thought of that. Like, we caught that is a scene of him being himself fully. And I was like, wow. So, yeah.
Did you see when he's with Dewey though, and he's like, oh man, he's a lot nicer in the movies.
Oh no, it's when they first meet Dewey and they leave. They're like, yeah, he's way more fun in the movies.
Yeah, and it's like, I thought you haven't seen all the movies, buddy.
No, he was watching it. Remember, he was watching Netflix in the hospital. Remember, because he's like watching. Well, he'd seen the first, but he's like, and I love that mode of like, what were you doing? I was watching Netflix. And I love it. Him and Amber accuse each other in that scene.
She gives him the little love eyes though.
Oh yeah.
I remember in the movie theater going, oh, she's suspect. And then I was like, she's too boring.
Well, she was a killer.
I thought she was the boring one.
She was killer in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, so it seemed like sort of obvious. Like,
yeah.
So
she was also supposed to be Tara's. Well, they cut it out, or at least the details of it. Tara's girlfriend or like love interest.
Yeah.
Tara's supposed to be a lesbian. In this movie, and Amber was supposed to be the love interest or girlfriend or ex-girlfriend or something related to that. They were supposed to be a couple, so they kind of got rid of the lesbian-ishness of the movie, which I think would have helped if they. Well, I don't know if it would have helped or not. I mean,
it kind of leaves it. I like it open that Amber can be more possessive of something she may not have. Like, there's kind of that allows Amber. And the thing I like about Amber, like during the bar scene, where they're all talking about stuff and how much they all like Sam. And she's like, you realize all those kids grew up with Sam and like them. She moves in later. Probably, I don't think she's ever met Sam, and has this cut and dry, cold approach about Sam, which means like she has no problem pulling off all these killings and shit because they're all attached to one another. Why would any of them go after her? And she's technically an outsider, even though she's probably been with them for a year or two. Like, it's kind of comes to fruition when you watch her talk about when they're all like talking about Sam babysitting them and all this like stuff. And she's like, yeah. And she's also the girl that left. All she knows is Sam from what Tara said. That's it. And it's kind of, that's how she's built her. Oh, I'm okay with pulling this wicked murder thing off. But she was supposed to kill Tara anyway. So.
Do you think she wanted to kill Tara?
I think she was supposed to. And that would have brought Sam back and and they made a mistake. And Tara's alive and they're dragging around that. Like, I think Tara's Tara's kind of a cog that screws up things a bit for them.
Well, it really does at the end because then Tara, gets like beats her with a thing, or beats her with her
'Cause,
crutch. But I still, I mean, Tara surviving is a major plot twist, but it just,
it makes her a suspect. That's what it helps do too.
yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that Tara survived. I know that they kept like saying like she was so lucky. Well, yeah, she was more than lucky in that situation. I almost kind of, it might have been a little bit more effective where it wasn't necessarily like a screw up and Tara was supposed to die, but there was like a noise or something coming, and like Ghostface had to like book it out of there immediately and not like double check to see if she was dead per se, because like I don't know why Amber would have, I mean, maybe that could have happened, but it looked pretty final. But I just don't know why Amber wouldn't have like ensured that Tara was dead before leaving. Like, I feel like Tara would have had to have been pretty confident that she finished the job before leaving. So I kind of wish there was something to say there was like a disruption, but I guess we have to believe that or whatever it may be, because it didn't seem like she was like stopping the stabbing anytime soon in that opening scene.
You know what? I just realized as an asthmatic, I would turn around and go back to a death house for my inhaler if necessary, because it's very important. But she was getting stabbed in the back and her lungs, like, holy crap, how does she not get anything punctured?
Yeah.
So she would have trouble breathing, but that's fine.
The Death House, which it's
The
an
Death
odd, it's an odd number Scream movie, so the Mocker House is back.
Which I like how they move in and she just became obsessed with the house, and that's when it all began, like Amber's obsession, I guess.
She was probably obsessed before, and then when she found out where she was moving, it got bigger.
Well, didn't they plan it to like move there? Like I thought that they knew it was like available, so they like made it so that they like.
Well, her parents had to move her there. That's
Well, no, but I mean, like I think she like convinced, like she knew what it was, and
Yeah.
like convinced her parents to get that house.
Yeah.
I don't think it was like her parents stumbled on it. I mean, this was all a very well laid plan, where Amber was like, "Wait, Death House is available, Mom. Look at this fine real estate.
Yep.
It's a bargain."
And I'm
I
okay with the
mean,
murders. It doesn't bother
yeah.
me. Does it bother you? No, we're part of history. Come on.
And I love the way they shoot the house and stuff, where you don't realize it's the house until it's Sydney calls it, till they have the address and they pull out, and you're like, "Oh fuck, what?"
I love that when she's like
You're
in
just
the
like-
doorway. Oh, and they
Yeah. They pull out, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, oh wow!" And they're watching the scene on the couch from the scene with the thing. Oh, like it's all crazy.
Okay, I love how they whipped up all these relatives of the original cast though and brought them in. So you got the twins.
Well, I like we don't know they're the
Sue's
Meeks twins
nephew.
for the long. Well, we don't know they're
Yeah.
Randy's, niece and nephew for the longest time.
Not until you get to the little cinema circle at his sister's
Yeah.
house, Randy's
Yeah.
sister's house.
With the Randy Meeks Memorial Home Theater.
And they get Dewey.
Yeah. Well, I like the twins. Like they point out stuff like the one, like when they're at the party and he's like, "Yeah, why are you sitting here drinking, celebrating, watching our uncle, the thing that murdered our uncle on TV and just enjoying it?" Like it's kind of like this weird thing where, the youth separate from the past, and they weren't even born when Randy was killed. So, they can see it in a different kind of like light. She thinks it's cool that my uncle's based on a movie and all that. But yeah, okay, so Dewey, I actually love what they've done with him here in a kind of a legacy sequel thing, because you know what fanboys always went? Status quo, status quo. So guess what you get? Dewey and Gale have separated. But you also have to give reason for it and see what has happened to people because of it. And then you give the logical reason and look at where he's at. He's this sad sap in a trailer, not in the police force. He's got his Tatum box sitting there. It's
Finally, something to recognize Tatum.
right.
No
But
photo in his wallet ever, anything. Nothing in the house. Just
he
whatever.
still watches Gail on TV, just like he said in the first one where he used to watch her on the TV. But like he's still got his quips and stuff. It's grizzled, but like I think like Arquette's given some of his career best work in this movie. Like it's really good, and he's when they show up, they're like, "Give me one good reason to talk to you. I'm Billy Lewis's daughter." That's a terrible reason for me to talk to you. And the part where Wes says he could be the killer, he goes, "Well, maybe you're the killer," because that cut deep. Like,
that one was so funny. Even when he's texting Gail, he's like, "Hey, it's happening. Don't come back. Hope you're doing well." Smiley face.
Oh yeah, I shouldn't have put the smiley face. He's like, oh, just because he took a shower doesn't mean he should be carrying a gun. And then the thing is, the brilliance is like Dewey nails it in his one scene because he's like, never trust the love interest, Richie. 2, motives always connect to something in the past. I guess restoring the credibility of the first movie. And then 3, the first victim has a friend group, the killer's part of Amber. And then the Meeks, the girl, what's the female Meeks? What's her name? She nails the motive about why they're doing it.
Yeah.
And it actually, like, you know, in another movie, it'd been like, it wouldn't quite be like we're fans of movies doing it. It would just kind of fit in, but it really was that. What they're talking about it. So like it's nailed, right? It's right there. And then I love what Jack Quaid's like, Dewey nailed it in the first thing. I can't believe it. Like he's like, oh my gosh. So you know, you sit here watching him through this movie, and it's just kind of funny. How they do that.
Except the thing that kills him is the thing that he can never do a headshot. He can never remember to do the headshot, even though he's like, oh yeah, you gotta.
Oh well, I mean, the moment Dewey turns up, you're like, I don't think he's making it through this movie. Like, you know, I don't think he's.
Except that was Amber that did it, right? I don't believe that she's that strong.
Well,
First off, she always has her hair down, and then she just tucks it in her little cape. And so that means it's never going to get in her way when she runs. But I'm sorry, hair, I can't even sit at this computer without the hair somehow like getting in my face. So that drives me nuts when people have their hair down.
Well, like, my one thing when I went to watch it the second time and stuff, I saw, I'm like, okay, I like these killers or whatever, but I'm like, Amber's another Culkin, Robert Small person. But this movie filmed it properly because the angles they use, she actually is her legit height in the scene she's supposed to be the killer. They film it cleverly. It worked. Like the Dewey scene where she's standing tall above him, it's not a really tall ghost face there. If you look at the surround, like she's short there, but they make her so aggressive and adrenaline infused. I can buy strength that we may not think she has just looking at her.
Yeah.
But that's why I give the movie with Amber. Like this movie, for some reason, I'm willing to give conceits of things to, like the retcon of I'm Billy Loomis's daughter. I buy it. Sure. Okay. He was a creep anyway. Like he was a sex starved creep anyway. So possible. This Amber being the killer, the technical proficiency of the film wise, it checks out. Like just the way Ghostface looks when she's supposed to be it. And like one of the people she kills,
he's really hot.
Huh?
And he's really attractive. Like, I'm sorry, there's plenty of women he would have been able to sleep with back then. Like,
yeah.
I mean, he's an attractive man back then.
Well,
he still is to this day. Let's be real. Well, I mean, Billy Loomis, the actor, but still, yeah. I mean,
and they say the mom was attracted to him already, even though she was already with the dad person. So,
which makes sense too, because he's the hot bad boy off on the side, dating somebody else or like interested in somebody else. I mean, girls would want him.
Yeah,
it's a whole thing. I that fully tracks. He probably knocked up. I mean, I wouldn't be mad if like 4 more kids showed up and be like, we're all Billy's too. I'd be like, I believe it. Like, sign me up to get on the Billy train.
It could have been. It could have been.
Virgin. She wasn't putting out, so he was getting it somewhere.
Yeah, it could have been the night he left her window after the PG-13 relationship.
Honestly, like again, high school kids do that shit. Like that is what they do. They get it from their girlfriends. They do lying, like cheating things, or like gay men do that all the time. They see one guy and then run off to somebody else that night. Like it tracks. So like not mad about any not mad about any of those secrets. And I like that at the end they make the point of saying like, oh come on, your mom's a drunk. It's pretty easy to find this out. like I appreciate there's a level of self-awareness that this movie had, but it didn't seem like it was forced or contrived. It just seemed like no one really wanted to pay attention to it. But when you're in those small towns, everybody talks, but also because they live in it, you don't really think about it the way outsiders would, because it's not weird to them. They're like, oh, that's just, the drunk, didn't she like get knocked up by that serial killer? Wait, was that a thing? Like, I feel like it's just common knowledge that like people don't think of as a thing there because it's a part of this weird town history. So it all makes sense, but from an outside looking in. So yeah, Amber tracking down that information makes sense. It makes sense that the kids wouldn't be really aware of that or anything else, because why should they be? So I appreciate all that. But my
especially if the mom was
one
getting drunk
issue,
because her husband left, right? Because he found out, when Sam was 13, so he bounced because she was reading the diary or confronting her mom about it. So he's
Yep.
like, I'm
And
leaving.
he was in the room. He wasn't supposed to hear
I'm
it.
sorry, I blame him for just leaving.
Right.
Because something that happened in high school. I don't blame the kid, but there's issues they got to work out, right? So then the mom's always, that totally makes sense. She would just run her mouth and be like, well, he left me because he found out about it.
I mean, this movie does a really good job of like tying things up and like bringing things together in the story as well. Like I said about 4, I just feel like where I struggle with this movie a little bit is sometimes it's a bit expositional and it just is a little talky.
Yeah, okay. Fair.
That is just, but not bad, but they're really trying to accomplish a lot. And again, I can't criticize it because look who's talking literally too much. So like I can't complain about a movie being too expositional when I'm just when it's me. But it does kind of run that thing. But my one issue with this movie that drives me crazy is Judy's death in the middle of the open air.
I have that. Yeah, the broad daylight. Like if she killed Judy second and runs off, okay, but she goes back in the house and Judy's just body outside.
Yeah, but not only that, while she's driving aggressively back to the house, she already called all the sheriffs and everybody, like deputies, everybody to get to her house. So how slow is this town that she can be like wherever she is, which it's not that big, that she can't drive back to her house and get to the front porch and get aggressively stabbed and have her son get killed after he's casually through the house before the other cops get there. I don't get it.
It's the Fast and Furious 6 runway.
It
keeps going.
That is my like, I love her death. I love how brutal it is. It's devastating. It is shocking. But that timeline does not work.
It's weird.
She called cops and Wes dies way too slowly and she's lying in open air. And I can't imagine in that neighborhood there's not somebody strolling down the street, walking their dog. I mean, it's gritty, but her part of town isn't gritty.
She should have at least got killed inside the house.
Yeah.
Or something, but or killed Wes first. But I do like with Wes there, they film it like Barrymore in the original. Like the camera sweeps and stuff look very much like Drew Barrymore's scenes in the original, which is really cool. And then his stabbing in the neck is like,
I can't watch.
And it's Amber. Hard. It's Amber. Their height. Yeah. Look at their height. They are like right there. Like they're not making an 8-foot tall ghost face in this like other movies. It's truly Amber right there.
You know what else bothers me about Sheriff Judy is she all of a sudden has this freaking kid. We can never hear her mention him in 4, which is 11 years ago. And when she's making lemon squares for Dewey, I don't know if she was trying to find a new baby daddy, but it's like, oh my God. That's the only thing I could think about was like, shit, a kid? So I was trying to do the math.
Oh, yeah.
I felt like she was really hitting on, I thought she was hitting on him. Maybe she wasn't. Maybe
she was probably a single mom this whole time.
Yeah.
Single mom can hit.
Baby, and I was like, well, okay. All right.
Well, we aren't supposed to know a lot about Judy. She's supposed to be a suspect in the 4th one. So.
All right.
Well, yeah, they do a good job making her a suspect, but yeah, that's true. We couldn't, find out that she had a kid.
She was also killed in one of the original scripts of the 4th one too. So.
She had a 5-year-old when 4 was happening.
Yeah.
So fascinating to think that Judy was acting that way with a 5-year-old at home. Who was the babysitter back then? Now I want to know who Wes's babysitter was.
It was Sam Carpenter.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, they talked
Oh,
about her babysitting.
fascinating.
Yeah.
You're right. See, it's all woven in. So Sam was when the murders were happening back then. And that's true. Jill is so selfish. She wouldn't have cared about Sam and Billy being her baby daddy or
Mhm.
anything like that in the town. So
Yeah.
yeah, that all makes sense that
Yeah.
all these years later
Yep.
it would be now a thing.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I think Wes Craven so he's named after Wes Craven. Like I said, I love that they film it like Drew Barrymore, and complete with like the fake outs and loud, obnoxious Foley sounds for no reason, like when he's making the stuff.
Yeah.
I think Wes Craven would have got a kick out of that because he was kind of a devious little guy that was like, you know, would have liked killing it, seeing his own self dead after being dead. Himself, he would have thought he got a kick out of that. He also, at the end of the movie, it says for Wes. And one of the coolest things they do about that is they put these like little bird sounds around it because he was big into ornithology, and that was a tribute to that. He wrote books and stuff on that too. He's a big bird watcher, so that was fun. But yeah, that broad daylight scene's just like I don't
Because she's
know about
stabby,
It's
right?
Yeah.
She's out
loud.
there, like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like just a quick.
It's on the
run.
sidewalk leading up to that. It's not under the porch. It's not
Yeah.
It is out. Like
And
apparently,
there's always a nosy neighbor. Every
Or someone
neighborhood has a
driving
nosy
by?
neighbor who's
Yes.
looking out the
Nobody
curtains.
drove by.
nobody drove by, or someone's like, "Oh fuck that."
Well, that's true. I was gonna say bystander effect. Like everybody's like, "Wait, is somebody dying?" I'm sure somebody called the police already.
If the
Wait,
sheriff can't stop that person, what chance do I have?
I mean, yeah,
I
I'm.
just shut the curtains. Like, no.
Well, okay. Actually, let's be real for a second. Let's break this down. In
Okay.
reality, if you were in your house across the street and you heard the noise, you opened up your blinds and you saw that happening, what would you act? You would probably call the police. Well, the police were already called. Would you run outside and say, "Stop doing that"? I don't know.
Well, in
So,
today's climate, you go film it.
yeah.
Sorry, can't help. The people are. Yeah, that's what they
Like,
would.
I don't know. I mean, or is this town that desensitized from so many murders over the
Probably.
years that they're just like, "Ah, fuck, we're back to this again."
I think they want to shock us, but it just there's like I bet there's like I just hope people go with this. You know?
There's doorbell cameras that caught it, and it'll be
It's
up
more
online
of
later.
it's not so much like her getting stabbed out in broad daylight isn't as much of a bother as it is she already called the cops but on her way back to her house, meaning they should have been arriving around the same time as her. If she never called the cops on her thing and then did it, if there were bystanders taking video or calling the cops, that all tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just more that she already called the cops in a panic to get back home, and it wasn't a quick turnaround to get back home.
Right.
And I just don't know what the cops were doing while she's on her way back. And that's my only issue. And yes, they should have killed Wes before.
Yeah.
They should have killed Wes before. Although to be fair, was Wes, I mean, we saw Wes get killed
Mm-hmm.
after, but do you think he could have gotten killed before? Would they just like filmed it like, or they just got edited? Like, I don't know. For some reason, I feel like that death, like Judy might not have been home. Like the killer could have already killed Wes and then jumped out and attacked Judy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. If
Yeah.
he's already dead, it's too late for her. And we see she's like, oh, she's gonna go in there and find the bow on the front porch, and then the
Yeah.
killer runs off.
Yeah, I think honestly, I feel like Wes was already dead. It just we saw Judy die first because that just fit the flow of the movie better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do believe that Wes was already
Well, because
dead.
we weren't expecting Judy to get it first.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we expected Judy's gonna save her son, or like she's gonna be too late, or so, like it's surprise. Like
Yeah. It just that scene, there's just it works, and I think that it's well acted, it's shocking, it's brutal, it's well filmed.
Mhm.
Everything works, but when you think about it, it just you have to start
And that was
Ex-
something since the first time I saw this movie that I was like,
Yeah.
"Eh."
That's my big issue with this movie
Yep.
is that doesn't actually work. But because again, thanks to the cast and how it's filmed and how it's like how it's all put together,
Yep.
I accept it because it's a good time and they didn't waste it. Like if they're gonna do it, they
Mhm.
went all out. Fine.
Yeah. And like,
Otherwise, yeah.
yeah, one thing I like too is, like I said about this movie, what I liked is, they didn't fully hand over the last one. Mentioned that a few times. This one, like, has this dynamic of the sister relationship that really adds weight to it that's not there
Yeah.
in like previous movie. Like, there's stuff there between Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barea that is just where it's crux. Like, it's like these two have to work their differences out despite all these killings going on. It adds an extra layer to thing. To a lesser extent and more comedic one, the Meeks twins. And what's happening in this movie with these new characters, why they work so well and why I think they work, the best group since Scream 2 is we know what these people mean to each other. Like, we understand their relationships. They carry this movie. I mean, everybody comes in later. Dewey joins in to, write him off to Obi-Wan Kenobi them for a little bit. And then, Sydney pops in very late. Gail pops in very late just to kind of observe the way to the end. But this is allowed to be their movie. We're allowed to see them interact, get their histories, see them talk to each other, go over the suspects' things without the adult in the room a lot of the time too. Like, it's allowed to push forward. And I know this dynamic of this group and what they do. Even like a Vince, we know it adds to another character, and we kind of get who he is a little bit more. And it's allowed to just like settle on those rather than just hit up all reliables here. Um, and that's why I think it's really strong about this movie.
How about the fact that Sydney has a family now?
With
She's got
Mark.
kids.
Yeah.
She married Mark Kincaid.
I
Patrick
know.
Dempsey, whatever from the third one. That's
Yeah.
weird, but like, that's cool. Whatever. I guess he just stuck around and kept trying.
Yeah, where was he in the fourth movie?
They
Mark
didn't
Kincaid.
mention any
Just
like.
not mentioned.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like Nev Campbell, until she did a convention later on, didn't realize that was a thing. She's like, "Oh, I just read my lines. I didn't realize Mark was
Hilarious.
referring to that third movie."
I
But
don't think I did the first time. The second, just because I just watched 3 recently. I'm like, nuh-uh.
he's
She
the
married
lucky
Mark Kincaid.
he's the lucky exception to the rule, because at the end of Scream, there's 4 standing. There's Dewey, Gale, Sydney, and Randy. Randy bites it in the next one. At the end of Scream 2, there's 4 standing. Dewey, Gale, Sydney, Cotton Weary. The next one, Cotton's gone. Scream 3, Dewey, Gale, Sydney, Mark.
Mark.
Scream
So-
4, Dewey, Gale, Sydney, and Deputy Judy. Deputy Judy's gone.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
Mark
Yeah,
made it.
Mark survived the fuck, marry, kill, and he just got the fucking married.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
like,
He didn't he should have died in Scream 4, but alas. So
wow.
Never
Yeah,
great
you're right.
movie.
yeah.
I mean, but to be fair, like it did seem kind of odd that like all of a sudden he's like besties with like that he was kind of an odd choice to be at the final 4
Yeah.
of
Well, they
three.
weren't sure whether they're gonna kill him or not in that movie. There was cuts where he died, there was cuts where
Yeah.
he made it. So there's this the final scene where he was in it and wasn't in it. Like, he pops out of a
So-
doorway and goes, "Hey, you guys want to watch a movie?" You can easily cut him out and not know he was even there. Like,
Which I mean, I appreciate that she married him after that because if you're gonna do it, like it's nice to have a pay like
yeah.
22 years later,
Yeah.
like that'll pay off. That one little moment paid off 22 years later.
22
Hey guys,
years
want to
later.
watch a movie? Turn into a lifetime love. Like, I mean, I like that. My cynical heart accepts
Mhm.
that.
Or maybe she never got with him until recently. Like because the kids weren't that old, and he wasn't around for the 4th one, so maybe it was after the book
Yeah.
they got together.
Maybe.
Although, would he
Yeah, but
let her
how?
go back? Not let her go back to Woodsboro. I don't know. Maybe he just likes to check in on her, and after what happens in 4, he's like, "Holy crap, you almost died again. This is crazy. Let's do it." And then,
Yeah, I mean,
play with his
I
hair.
wonder how they stayed in touch over the years
Yeah.
because yeah, it would have been a 22-year thing, and she was pushing a stroller, so it was a new like a young child that she had.
Yeah.
So what were they doing in that 22 years? I want the movie. I want the movie of their love story. I want the Mark and Cade, Sidney Prescott love story.
Yeah.
Somebody give me that movie.
Paramount Plus could give us that as a series.
I'm surprised. I know they got kids, and he probably had to stay back and watch them for the story.
Like,
But wouldn't he show up too in Woodsboro to like try to protect her because he followed the story forever?
oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
Filming
Yeah.
purposes, whatever, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But like, I kind of wish.
I wonder if they've even asked Patrick Dempsey if he wants to do
Do you think they're
another
still
one.
alive in the Screenverse? And he's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, do you know that your character's reference again? What me? Yeah,
I filmed multiple scenes. I don't know if I actually lived or died. I never watched it. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I will say, so 3 of our last 4 killers in the last 2 movies have been Nepo babies. Did you notice that? You got a Culkin, you got the Roberts, and you got the Quaid. I don't think the girl who plays Amber is a nepotism baby, but she was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood that cast a lot of nepotism babies. So there's that factor. But yeah. There's that, yeah. And yeah, I do like the OG characters are Dewey does bite it, but they're smart in all their moves in this. Like Sydney finds Jack Quaid literally talking to her on the phone in the closet. Like she stumbles on him, but she goes right to it, shoots the closet, and that is the killer in there. Like he's literally on the phone talking to her. So
yeah.
But I like his reveal. Like it's sly, and then he changes and he gives his explanation, and I buy into it. Like okay, yeah, granted this is an extreme version, but we're watching a fucking movie where people take things to extremes. Like that's where you can believe into it. And I'm sure like, but this movie, Greg, do you remember this movie when it came out in the theater? It was like people liked this movie. It was really going over well, and then it fucking like Paramount Plus did after a month, and all the internet people saw. I'm like, yeah, like you're mad because that you're the people that they're talking about in this fucking movie.
Yeah. Anybody who went out of their way to see it, I think, appreciated it overall. And then those who like conveniently stumbled upon it are the ones who wanted to tear it apart.
And then when Halloween Ends came out, and it was like, hey, you're the people Scream earlier this year was warning fuckers about. Like you're the people that Scream, and then it came up like many times throughout the year talking about Scream 5, like being like, you're the people, like, yeah, this is what Scream 5 is fucking talking about, folks. But yeah, and I do have a question with this movie. So we're at like what, Stab 8? They have 8 of them by the time this comes out. Okay, who finished Stab 3?
That's what I've wondered that so many times.
Who finished Stab 3?
But they said that they ended up scrapping the one, right? And
Yeah.
ended up doing Hollywood Murder, whatever Gail's book was, Hollywood Murders or Hollywood Mysteries.
Well,
and they made the movie about that, and the return to Woodsboro never happened.
Oh,
because
did it?
everyone died.
I thought.
Yeah.
No, I knew Return to Woodsboro didn't happen, but what became of the new Stab 3, which would then lead into 4? Like, I'm just so confused. I'm just confused because I think you were the one that pointed out, Jessica, that 4 said something about like using the real names. Like, oh, after 3 they had to stop using the real names.
Yeah.
So
what
3
was
basically Scream 3? I think they made Stab 3, Scream 3.
Okay.
So Stab 3 was about killings that happened on a movie set as well?
Yes, because Gail wrote a third book. She wrote whatever, the Woodsboro Murders, and she did the college. I forget what they're called. Sorry. The college.
Windsor
whatever.
College Murders.
Yes, Murders, and then the Murders in Hollywood or Hollywood Murders.
Okay.
So her first 3 books all became Stab movies.
And 5's about time travel. We've heard that twice.
Hilarious.
4 and 5.
Well, okay, so when 4 takes place, they're already in stab 8. Yeah, because stab wait,
Step
4
7.
stab 7 is where because it's 6 and 7 in the opening of 4. So does that mean stab 8 is about Scream 4?
No,
Is
Or no.
is Stab 8 the one they called
Stab
Stab
eight's the
2021 or something? Or am I
or
thinking?
no, Stab eight's the one that is like a deconstruction of it all by Ryan Johnson. That's the one.
Oh, that's right. So
Oh,
that one is that. So here's what's interesting is the killers in 5 are wanting to create their own movie because that's how it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Like because like you have to base it on real things. Then why did they had real Ghostface material 11 years prior that never got turned into a movie though? So how do
Mhm.
these people think that now they're going to be the ones that actually get the movie because they're bringing back like a secret from the past, so they think their plot. But then technically, like Jill being a cousin of Sydney, that's a great story
Yeah.
about like, oh, Sydney's cousin pretended to be like that would make an interesting stab movie.
well,
So
now there's all these podcasts and Reddit subreddits or whatever, the Reddit, the internet. I don't
Mhm.
think that was all as popular, I guess maybe in 2011.
it wasn't.
But now they could put it out there to motivate people to create a better movie
Yeah.
versus depending on Gail to write a book or someone get it out in the I don't know.
Well, they were
Well,
actually
yeah.
they were gonna like the funny thing is with the Stab 8, they were Kirby's scene written for this movie was going to be in the YouTube when he was watching the YouTube and stuff, and it was going to be her interviewing Ryan Johnson about Stab 8, and he was on board. They couldn't find Hayden Panettiere till later. She contributes a voice to the 4 West thing, but that was all they could get her for because they weren't able to find her in time. But there was supposed to be her on YouTube talking with Ryan Johnson about Stab 8, and he was
But they have
on
the
board. They just couldn't
thumbnail
find her. They have the thumbnail,
of
but
her.
that's all they could do because
They
they
could
didn't have her
I
to film in time.
love that they have Ryan Johnson basically saving him from all the Star Wars fans trying to eat him alive.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
But-
no, they did very clever things with all that, with the subtle Easter eggs.
Yeah, there's good. I mean, there's fun Easter eggs all over this, especially the party scene. Like when you get Jamie Kennedy going, somebody's old dad is kicking us out, like, and different things.
Matthew Lillard has some voices in there.
Yep.
Yep.
Drew Barrymore,
Barrymore.
she's the principal's voice, telling everybody to the curfew and everything. Yeah, they have all sorts of fun. They try to get Rose McGowan. Of course, she did not want to because Weinstein. So I'm like, they're not making a dime off this movie. But they cleverly put stuff all over the place, and I do like playing with some of the tropes of the Scream movies. And I like when Amber reveals herself, just fucking shoots her in the head, just like, but just I was like, whoa,
Yeah, I like that.
whoa, like holy shit.
You're right. That's when at the end I can kind of believe it more, I guess, because she
She's
just kind of has
ruthless.
this adrenaline. And even when she's trying to fake like, help me, I'm hurt. Screw it. And then she tries to shoot
Yep.
at like Sydney and Gail. She's like, all right, they're not buying it because it's, again, they're how many 5th rodeo, like we get it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That was
Yeah.
I do love her and her spazziness and her desperation. Like in the whole kitchen scene is fun. I loved
Yep.
it. I loved all
The
of
kitchen
it.
scene, I love her stabbing the shit out of him. Like,
Oh,
like
love that.
it's like, oh, what? Like it's such a play on what they've done, the tropes, and then like Jenna Ortega getting the last shot from off screen is cool. And yeah, I just the clever way they play around the house. They really nailed this finale good. And Jack Quaid kicking everybody in the house because he's clearing it for his own disaster.
Yeah.
It's so good. And then Amber fucking with the Meeks with the basement with the beer.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, what if I am the killer? And she's like really talking to it's so the in your faceness of what these two killers do is great. Like I enjoy, it's so fun to rewatch because of these two having these moments where I don't think 4 had that with those two.
You don't.
You don't really have that. But yeah, the how much they're relishing in it, and just Jack Quaid. Also the when he pulls out thing, I can't believe this worked. Like there's so much of their
inhaler.
plan that is like you can tell has been improv. They didn't go the way they wanted for some of it, but and I think the hospital thing threw it off. Like Jenna Ortega surviving the opening
Yeah.
threw it off their
Asthmatics gotta
plan.
breathe, man.
Mm-hmm.
Although she desperately needed a prescription, she could have gone to any pharmacy if it was open and said, "Hey, I've been attempted murder.
Yeah,
You can pull my prescription." Because if she had an inhaler, she does have prescription
Yeah.
somewhere.
true.
But that's
Oh,
okay.
and she's a Dawson's Creek fan, which I love the Scott Foley cameo through that's
Oh
there.
yeah.
Because it's like that would be great. Yeah, he would have started like Dawson's Creek and moved up to a director, right? That could have happened. The Roman Bridger thing, but I really have a lot of fun with this one. I still do. Like I've probably seen it like 7 times now. Like you have, like you said, Greg. I saw it twice in the theater. I did the Blu-ray review or the 4K review when it came out, and I watched it twice before this, um, once as background, but still,
I love the
I feel
Mean
like I've
Twins.
watched it
Yeah.
once a week this year. I feel like I've just put it on like a lot this time already because I know I watched it like I had it on today. I know I had it on last week. I know I had it on the week before that. I watched it on a plane ride when I
Mhm.
was going to Cancun for the wedding over New Year's. I watched it on either there or back,
Mhm.
one of them. So yeah, it is fun to like put on, but it is a heavier, grittier movie when it comes to
Mhm.
it, and I think the exposition is is not as much fun to rewatch because it's not as snappy as maybe the other movies.
Mhm.
Because once you know certain stuff about like the whole reveal scene between Tara and Sam about like, oh, Billy's my father thing. It's just like, okay, I already know this. Like, let's get to it. So like certain parts like that I feel like drag a little bit upon rewatches, but the parts that I do love on it I actually want to focus on more so
Right.
than I do in like 3 or 4 where I can just put it on. None of it really seems to drag, but none of it really captures my attention. This one, it'll be like I'm not really paying attention and I have to look. Um,
Gotcha. Which I like.
so that's
I want
what it
that
is.
movie. Yeah.
And the final end scene I do, such a shit show.
Mhm.
And just like from when Olivia shows up and everybody like is throwing around blame. And for 1 second you're like, is Olivia the killer? Wait a second.
Yeah, no,
Because
they really make you wonder
really
about
do
all of them. Like you're like, "Ah."
it was good. And then like Amber shoots her, and then you're like, all right, this is getting out of hand. And just Sam, I mean, I will always love a moment where somebody just finally stabby, 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 stabby. Like I feel like if I were in that situation and there was somebody like if I were on top of a killer like that who just massacred loved ones and everything else, I would probably take that knife and make them unrecognizable after. Like I just feel like I wouldn't want to take chances and I would be adrenaline. So I like that she did that. And you don't really see that in horror movies. And I like that both Tara and Sam got the final kill shot. Like they
Yeah.
both got one killer each.
When
So it
Sam
wasn't
cleaned the knife too.
yeah.
Did she choke
So
him
so
first before she went and stabbed up? I can't remember. Like
Oh
how
no,
Billy
she
would do
grabbed
it.
it and stabbed. She stabbed him through the face,
yeah, oh
and then like stabbed him, and then slit his throat to let him slowly die out.
Yes.
And you know what's cool about Sam is she's allowed to be a legit suspect in here, and the visions of Billy help because you're like, maybe we're dealing with an unreliable narrator,
yeah.
which would be a kind of a cheat, but fine. But it's good there for a red herring the first time you watch it. Like it works there for that. Which
But I like
I like this character of Sam a lot. So I'm down for more of you.
it's funny because of all the YouTube rabbit holes I fall into, I will say of five, the most divisive thing about it is Sam. There's a
I
lot of people who don't like her out
I
there. Like
don't get it. Like I can't.
I don't I think the only issue is because she's responsible for so much exposition. And I
Okay.
think that's why well no, like that's what I'm assuming for it because I
Okay.
like her. I'm not mad at it. I
Mhm.
just for me when she's on screen, it's just like, oh, here we go again. Like But then when she actually gets to do stuff, I'm like, yes, do it. It's just, I think for other people, like Tara gets action, Tara gets pain, Tara gets sympathy. Tara is written as a more dynamic character because she doesn't have to have all this weight and backstory and history and visions that Sam unfortunately does. So by default, I feel like Tara is automatically going to be the more interesting character because you already are invested in Tara from the opening scene.
Right.
Great performance. She's the victim. She beat the odds. She broke the norm of surviving. You already love her. Sam, it takes longer for you to
Sam
like
doesn't have a lot of jokes. She's on edge for majority of the runtime, but Sydney kind of on edge, but she's a little bit fluffier in the original Scream with it and through it with her. She gets to have some jokes and some stuff. And like, I mean, Sam's, like, what am I a piece of fucking fan fiction? Am I being tortured with fan fiction and all that stuff? But like, I don't know. I still, I like her. I'm down. I'm on board for more of her. And I'm more of the rest of the survivors here with this one. Like I told you after I saw this, I'm like, I can see a Scream with none of the original characters coming back now because I've got this group I can follow. And when people are going into Scream 6, like, oh no, no Scream, I'm like, did you see the last one? We're in good hands. The kids they have passed the keys off to and all this. Gail's coming back. That's fine. That actually, Greg, you've pointed out to me that makes sense because this is Gail's realm, solving mysteries, doing that. Sydney's not going out looking for more murders or more mysteries. Gail is.
Right.
That's her. Yeah.
And
oh, go ahead.
Oh, you talk. No, you go.
No, it's just the twins. I just was so confused with because I thought the brother had died at the Meeks brother.
Yeah.
And even the sister, but they both survived.
They both survived.
And so she just laying on the floor the entire time, just holding her stomach wound. Because wasn't she like stabbed in the living room?
Yeah. She was stabbed.
So she's like, I'm just gonna be over here. Or did she get stabbed the same way Kirby did to kind of set up that Kirby comes back so no one can like throw a fit about it?
I mean, they rolled her out, but here's the thing.
They roll them both. Yeah, they both come out. So
again, if Tara can survive,
yeah.
I have very little issue with anybody else.
I mean,
surviving at this point.
in the first movie, Dewey gets stabbed, and then we're like, oh, he's dead, and then they roll him out. The second movie, Dewey gets stabbed a bunch, like really bad, and then we're like, oh, he gets rolled out. So it's a tradition of Scream that somebody gets rolled out. That was supposed to be the surprise in one of the endings for 4 that we don't get to see till what would be the next movie, who was getting rolled out, Sydney or Kirby. And we'll just assume Scream 4's rollout is Kirby. That's who I'm still there. Where's Gail? That one. So Scream 5, we get the Meeks twins.
I'm not mad at that. And again, she wasn't stabbed too much, like the twin, she wasn't stabbed too aggressively. I've not survived that one. I feel like, wait, wasn't that kill interrupted too? I feel like
it was during Pandemonium. Yeah,
that kill was interrupted, so like they couldn't even finish off the twin, and like both twins couldn't really get
laid there like,
off.
oh, people are still dying. I'm gonna just pretend I'm already dead.
Well, what else would she get? But here's what I think is really funny. Well, oh no, never mind. It's not even funny. It tracks because bitch, she was stoned off her ass. So like, like everybody else has all this adrenaline going. Like,
well, and way like Amber can kill the bigger jock Meeks because she gets him in the leg where he's gonna bleed. Like he can't fucking move. Like she is now overpowered. It's the placement of the stab. She's now the stronger one in the fight because so they're so clever with how they utilize Amber, where other films have
way
it.
More. She did way more than Richie
because he's around. The only time, Richie has a lot of the hospital stuff. There's like 2 Ghostface in the hospital, and like then he's away when Sam just runs off from the Meeks and leaves him. He's by himself. But like I don't.
Well, Richie stabbed the I don't know the Meeks names, both of their names. The female twin. Richie stabbed her because Amber was like, I was with Tara. So like it had to have been Richie who stabbed, who came up and did the whole meta behind the couch thing with that twin. But like, who did Richie actually kill now that I'm thinking about it? Because
I-
Amber killed Dewey.
I
Amber
was
killed
thinking he
Olivia.
killed. I thought he killed Judy for some reason. Because that's like when him and Sam separated, maybe.
Yeah,
Like when she had to go on her own.
it's
But
totally Amber. If you look at the
then I
height
have to
with
go back
Wes,
and watch
yeah,
everything.
Amber
So
kills the most people in this movie.
yeah,
Richie does not. Richie's kind of like the brains,
So
and
he handled the
Amber's.
mic, making the phone calls,
He
maybe.
did make
yeah.
phone call. He made phone calls. He's
He
attacked.
killed what's his face? Your the guy you love that you're friends with, or your who wrote you a
Oh,
message.
Gallner. Yeah, he killed.
Yeah, he killed
Schumacher's
him.
nephew.
That's
Yes. Yeah.
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 He killed that guy. Otherwise, I don't think Richie really killed
He-
much other than like
hospital
yeah,
attacks. I think he
yeah.
does a couple of the hospital attacks. I think maybe he killed the officer that's laying on the ground in the hospital with his throat slit when they arrive
Oh,
at Tara's.
possibly.
Yeah, he's because he's with Sam, so he
Yeah.
can't do stuff a lot, but he's doing a lot of the setting up and putting people in place and
Oh.
manipulate. He's doing a lot of the chess moves in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. But like Amber really is the fiery one that's just kill, 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 which is fun. I like that for her.
And she meets the same demise as she does in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in this movie as well.
Right. She does.
I love that. And you pass the torch. Time to pass the torch gladly. And yeah.
That was great. I was wondering why. Well, the minute I saw them like do the spray and the whole like alcohol thing, I was like,
Hand
somebody's caught on
sanitizer.
fire. Yeah, that's. I was like, somebody's catching on fire. I
Yep.
just and I liked how they did it. But you're right. I don't feel like Sydney is really needed in these movies anymore because
Mhm.
what else is there for her to do? Why, like, it's not like she's getting older. She's like
Yeah.
a mother now. Like, she's not trying to be a part of the action. She's not trying to capitalize on the action. There's literally, it's not, it's shooting fish in a barrel. Like, at this point, like, it's
Yeah.
not interesting to get her, even though we love her. Great. We're not
And
like saying she doesn't matter. We're just saying, like, she's not a part of the story anymore.
and she's not really this one. She's forced into it because of the
Dewey.
weird fandom motive that brings
Yeah.
her that they want her there, but she's like never gonna come there naturally. And then Dewey right here is like perfect. This is the perfect opportunity to off him because like what more is he gonna give us after like we've seen him the first movie that the second movie he's kind of just randomly there solving the mystery, some comic relief, and we remember him from the first movie. The third movie doing the weird Hollywood thing. Fourth movie, now he's the sheriff of town. He's back.
Yeah.
And then now you take it like, what more's left? Like they've really stretched Dewey beyond, we love him. He's fun. He's one of the best parts of the thing, but like character wise, aside from it being this lovable thing from David Arquette, they've stretched him as far as they can go.
Yeah.
Gail still has miles left, I feel.
Oh yeah,
like it's
Gail
weird.
is fine.
It's weird. Like
Gail will eat this up for a long time. Plus, she's living in a fancy New York penthouse right now. Like Gail doesn't have any attachment to Woodsboro anymore. She probably is like, you know what, Sydney's gonna do her thing. Like, we're done. There's gonna be a love and respect between the two of them after all the 25 years of hell that they endured together. And they're living separate lives. But Gail,
Yep.
like I said I forgot which episode of this, but I think Gail really is the most dynamic character
Yeah.
of the entire franchise.
if you look at it, yeah.
Yeah, she really is.
And
So
I'll never get Courtney Cox as Lois Lane, so this is the best I can. This is the even better second place because Courtney Cox would have been fabulous casting as Lois Lane, but in some random Superman movie that happened. But
we don't even know what she's doing in 6 yet, because I mean,
No.
like, she's living very fancy, so she might actually have like a talk show. She might actually be like, she's making bank right now. So something between, well, she's on her TV show, but after 5, I don't know if her career took off to a new
or she
New-
gave it
She's
up, or
got
what's
her
she
own
Well,
doing?
podcast. She's
wait.
got,
lies. In 5 to 6, it has been confirmed that it's only a 6-month time gap leap.
Oh.
And Jenna Ortega has healed miraculously.
Yeah, I know,
In
in
that
6
time.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it is only 6 months that have passed between Scream 1 or Scream 2022 and Scream 6,
Yeah.
which is oddly abrupt. Like you would think a little bit.
I have a
Yeah.
feeling with that and with our creators, they're going to want to make their own trilogy. We have our own new batch of characters. Perhaps the killer or killers in the next one relate to Richie and Amber at somehow, and there's maybe a vast thing of fandom people. I don't know, but you know, I going outside the Scream box, looking at these Radio Silence guys that do this. That's what it's called, right? Radio Silence, is that their group? They're probably focused on, now that they've did the legacy sequel thing, now you go to the own thing. And now the rules of the legacy sequel, I don't think it's going to be the thing but every time you have this legacy sequel and the first one's pretty well liked, the next one's very divisive with people because it finally does its own thing. It finally addresses things, and you always get the devices people because it wasn't status quo, safe and friendly again. I don't think Scream 2022, it falls into that because it's embracing tropes, not because it is being that. That makes sense. But I think we're probably up for a divisive opinion on this next one. We haven't even seen it yet. I've heard good things, but like, yeah, that's where we're heading to. A decently liked movie here. The next one probably divisive.
I'm gonna love it. I think I'm
excited.
excited.
I'm pumped for it. So
I already have my tickets. I'm ready to go. I'm seeing 3D. The first one in 3D.
there you go.
Get ready for the
There
blood
you
to come
go.
at you.
There you go. Do you think Gail will make it through Scream 6?
Ooh, I think we think she dies, but she doesn't.
I was thinking like, maybe opening kill, and then they released the first like shot of her, and I'm like, I said it to Greg. I was like, she's dead. It just looks so I'm by myself and ran. Then the trailer came out and she's with the group, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe not. So right away, but I was like,
don't think they're gonna kill her because I feel like with no Sydney and taking a new direction, I don't think it's a bad thing to have Gail because she's kind of built herself as she will always belong in it because the story doesn't revolve around her. She makes a story about her type of thing.
yeah, she
So
tells
I
the
think
story
that-
about the event. She's the
Yeah.
observer, the recorder, the historian. And at the end of 5, remember Sydney's like, no more of this, no more of this, done. No,
Yeah.
don't do this no more. So
Well, yeah, because how many times can Nev Campbell show back up being like another ghost face? All right, yeah, been here, give me the gun, like walk in. It's just we don't need an apathetic Sydney being like, ugh, give me the gun, fine.
Like, I don't care about any of these kids. Dewey's dead, which it's fine. I've done my job. I'm out.
Sidney Prescott's like Tony Stark is for the like MCU Spider-Man movies. Or like, he didn't tip me well. I'm Craven the Hunter now. Like, you know, that's kind of like her moves is like boyfriend. Oh well, you killed my son. Oh well, I'm your I'm your cousin. That is, you know, like that's, you know, they do well in explaining these things, but it's kind of like that's, you know, she rubbed someone the wrong way for some reason, and people are after her. So it was nice that this one really didn't have to do with her, other than there was a movie based on her life that did this with stuff. So
yeah. I think Gail will at least make it through 7. I mean, or at least make it to 7, and then they might offer at the completion of this trilogy.
Yeah.
Because if they make it, which I mean, there's no way they won't make it till 7. I feel like they've already locked in the next 2 movies.
I think so. I think there will be a 7 for sure. Yeah.
Like, I mean, this one is already having advanced ticket sales that already is surpassing Scream 4. So therefore, Scream. Yeah.
It's set for a bigger opening than the last one too. So like always, don't listen to the internet. People liked that movie and they're going to show up for this one. So
yeah. So 7 is pretty much a guarantee. They already said they wanted to do a trilogy.
Yep.
We're getting 7. So Gail probably will be offed at 7, and maybe the reason why Sydney makes an appearance is at a funeral, and then it's officially then 8, 9, 10 become 8, 9, and 10 become a whole branch of whatever else, and no legacy is left.
There you
Do you
go.
think Gail will be a killer or Sydney? Will it ever
No.
happen?
I
that
think
they
we're
snap
we're
and they become
past that.
killer?
We're past
Yeah.
that. Like that would have been something for like a 3, 4, or 5, or 3 or 4. But like I
No,
think
they're just
we're
over
past
it.
that.
It's
Yeah.
not
Or what
worth
if they
it.
just snap and they're
too
trying
late.
to save people? They're trying to save
No.
people, but they end up
Yeah.
just actually killing more people than saving.
No.
Like
Yeah.
superheroes, little.
Yeah.
Collateral
Dewey
damage.
might have worked for like this one, but like it's beyond the point of one of them doing it all.
Yeah. The biggest shock would be if like Tara became the killer after surviving in the first one. Like that I could see being like some really off the wall bold move, but I mean there's no reason to make anybody who survived 5 of these become a killer now.
Well,
It's just
Sam
that
had a
would be
taste of it, but that's not all. She's not no.
well, no, but that I
Yeah.
mean I'd be
That's
fine
for
if
the next one.
Sam wanted to be a killer, if Tara, that wouldn't bother me as much as like if Gail became a killer suddenly, I'd be like, ugh, that would make me
Ew.
kind of groan. I mean, I would find it interesting, but I would hate for that to be canon. Like I would watch that movie. I
Yeah.
just would hate that it would be in the same universe that like Sydney, everybody else went through everything is. So yeah, make that movie for fun, but don't put it a part of the official.
Yeah. Gail's time to have been a killer would have been 2 or 3. Like
Yeah, like she got fed up, like things weren't interesting enough, and she wanted a new book, or
Yeah.
no, wait, in 4, she's struggling to write.
oh yeah,
So
she could have
yeah, so maybe 4, she was
Yeah.
struggling to write, so she like spiced things up a bit, and maybe she teamed up with Jill, being like, "Hey, Jill, you're Sydney's cousin. You think this all his attention is so great? How about we put the attention on you?"
So you're saying
and you and I
still
can
better
write."
than Charlie.
Well, I would have loved that movie if Gail and Jill were the killers.
So
That would have been dope. That
is-
would have been really interesting.
Is Charlie our weakest killer of the entire series?
Yeah, because he
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah,
do
and
anything.
he's there and he like
But
gives
he
a
did do
really
all the deaths. Like he killed
Yeah.
everyone.
Well, he did kill everybody, but he didn't
But-
do anything.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also it was too weird of a reveal that he was into Kirby and then mad at her that she finally
Right, yeah,
after
like
all this time, but then he was still like in love with Jill, like we're together now, and it's like what?
yeah,
Like I thought you
yeah,
were fighting over Kirby, but then you're taking Jill as an afterthought, but then you killed for Jill.
yeah, like
So
yeah. I don't buy it's too messy. It's like a lot of stuff that earlier drafts had for like maybe Trevor and stuck
Yeah.
there and like yeah, it's like I said, that Scream 2 and 3 definitely have our issues with the scripting and stuff, but that or earlier pieces not getting thought out for later rewrites occur in both those movies. But yeah, no, Scream, this one's just rock solid, top to bottom. I know they didn't let people know endings and they shot fake scenes for this one. And Greg, I think you said the trailer intentionally had fake stuff in it.
yeah,
So
some misdirects or something.
misdirects. So yeah,
But I still think it's fascinating that movies have to budget in extra filming just for fake outs.
you can do that with digital now.
Yeah,
Definitely
that's true.
easier than wasting reels of film doing
That's
it.
true.
But yeah, no, I think Scream 2022 assembles. It's a legacy sequel that's has nostalgia in mostly fun and non-distracting ways, and it appreciates the history of the series as well as the state of horror. Really feels what the original 3 Scream movies were in, that they were a reflection or in a deconstruction of the genre or a trend in film while also being passionate about it at the same time, which Scream 4 has some of that. I'm not saying take away, but these like feel it to me more than the 4th one does when in terms of the scope of what Scream is for horror, more than just like the continuation of a Scream saga. Or what do we call it, a saga in Scream? Or what do we
I
Fast
think it
is
has
a
to
fast
be a
is a
saga
saga, but
now.
yeah, saga. So yeah, but we're up to date. Next is up is Scream VI or Scream.
Woo!
Shing.
I think the title
Six.
treatment is so clever with the way they did the 6 in the M, like
The marketing has been amazing for Scream 6. Like the poster,
really incredible for the
someone
sequel.
got word to them that the poster weren't got great for Scream 5, so they are every week there's some clever, awesome poster coming out for Scream 6. Like, I have been in love with all these posters. I thought the
Yep.
teaser on the subway was cool. I
So
liked
good.
the trailer. It was like, oh shit, this looks really good. And it's taking the, like, some people are like, Ghostface with a shotgun. I'm like, why not do something different?
But I don't
They
understand the
use
logic behind
guns in
that.
the end of
Thank
every movie.
you.
They have guns.
Yeah.
They use guns. They throw people off buildings. They do. Ghostface blew up a house. Ghostface has done a lot of different crap before. I don't understand why a shotgun is too far now. Like, if you look at every kill, not every
Mhm.
kill was done with a knife. I
Yeah.
don't get it. I just don't get why a shotgun was an issue. And it wasn't like Ghostface showed up with a shotgun.
He took it from the guy.
somebody's
Yeah,
shotgun.
he took it. Yeah.
People love to
Like,
complain.
oh, like if he showed up with a shotgun, then you'd be like, all right, this seems a little bit much for Ghostface. But no, Ghostface uses what is available. That is part of Ghostface. You show up with a knife, don't bring a knife to a gunfight, then take the damn gun and use it.
Ha!
Problem solved. Like, I
Problem solved.
don't get these people.
They don't like things that they haven't seen before. It always drives them nuts when a new idea is introduced. Until that new idea becomes an old idea, it's not okay. Like,
That's weird.
that's what happens, because being a fan of a celebrating 60 years this year Doctor Who programming, when new ideas are introduced, fan people from sides I luckily have cleared myself from get all up in arms and all pissy, but will report back like the Bible, something that happened 20 years into the show's run that changed things. But that's how I'm like, that was made up and added then too, right? Like, all your fiction is made up. And the things you will go by were once weird too. Like, it's like,
But it's still unusual objects have been used before.
right?
So that's where I draw a line. It's not like this is the first time that it's now not a knife.
It's
But
not like
no,
he's walking
so-
around with the garage door, right?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
I'm coming.
Yeah. So like I don't understand. Like, okay,
He blew up a
shotgun is-
house. In the third one, they blew up a house to kill one person. To kill one person. They
Well,
blew
actually,
up a
no,
house.
he blew himself up. He shouldn't have.
Well, that's
know,
true.
Oh yeah.
started
It was
the
like a
lighter.
jigsaw
Yeah, he did.
death. It was like a jigsaw death. I didn't kill him.
Which is
never
I
did.
still like it. So, and again, if Tatum didn't go through the damn doggy door, then maybe she would have lived. We don't know. So I don't understand why people think that him with a shotgun is different when Ghostface with a shot or when Ghostface with a different object than a knife is not different. Therefore, anytime Ghostface has
Hey,
something that is not a
what-
knife, you accept it.
In one, they were foreshadowing it because in one of the stab movies, in this one, they had a flamethrower.
Yeah.
So they're like, "Hey, Ghostface gonna use different weapons, y'all."
Maybe. I think I would have an issue. Maybe I wouldn't even have an issue because I'm not that person. But if maybe Ghostface started showing up with those weird things,
Mhm.
but again, shotgun used by somebody else, Ghostface took shotgun. Okay, accepted.
Yep.
It's just, I think that's just where I get where people are like, it's frustrating. If Ghostface just showed up at like a school and just used a shotgun or like in Scream 2, if Ghostface showed up at Windsor College and used the shotgun, it would be weird, but not the case. So
Mhm.
showing up and taking somebody's shotgun and then using it to protect themselves, yeah, Ghostface
Right.
is trying to live as well. It's self-defense. You don't want it to be self-defense for a killer, but guess what? Same theory applies. Two
Mhm.
sides of the coin are trying to survive. Will it be the one that's trying to kill though, or the one that's trying to like it just
Yeah.
they're
Oh, I
both.
agree.
So I don't know. It's frustrating, and guess what? In the trailer, nobody's complaining about somebody going across a ladder between buildings or whatever at a thing. Guess what? Ghostface maybe might drop that ladder and not stab him. Uh-oh, he killed somebody with knocking off a ladder. Is that worse than a shotgun that he stole? Like,
He's
ugh.
walking around
Yep.
with gravity, just like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna use this gravity to take them all down.
Yep.
Oh, like,
So yeah.
yeah. If
It's
Ghostface became a ghost, literally, like I know it, I always know what you did last summer, or Urban Legend Bloody Mary, I would maybe start having issues with this franchise if they went the supernatural route like these other movies. But until
they've
that
done
happens,
so well not to do it so far.
yeah, until that happens, I don't care what random object Ghostface kills with because Ghostface is human and trying to kill, and Ghostface continues to get better at using vests and other protection devices to save themselves so they're not getting shot. Like each time Ghostface learns something new to improve their kills and stay human. Great.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I
yeah.
agree. And that's what we'll talk about in the next episode. So before we get to that, Jessica, where can people keep up with you?
Over on Twitter at JN Alsman and Instagram at Jessica Alsman.
Cool. Greg.
And I'm on all social media platforms at the McGoonies.
All right. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram, Brandon4KUHD, written work on WhySoBlue.com. Next week, Scream 6, the first time in consecutive years since 1996-97, Scream 1 and 2, that we've had consecutive Scream movies in years. So that's cool. So until then, stay film positive. And go see Scream 6 because we're probably just going to talk spoilers.
Oh, yeah, we are.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail at BrandonPetersShow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.